All right. Over the past 15 plus years, marketing expert Adil Amarsi has generated $1.2 billion in combined sales for himself and his clients via copywriting, consulting, courses, and more. Some of the highlights of his experience includes writing some of Tony Robbins' highest performing ads, helping a client bring in an extra 10 million in profits over 2 years, 2xing an $8 million a year company to 16 million profitably inside 6 months, and mentoring copywriters and business owners to generate their highest possible ROI from advertising. Adil and I have been sort of orbiting each other for a while on social media now with some mutual connections, and I'm excited to be connecting with him today. Adil, welcome. Thanks for hopping on.
Hey, Michael, thanks for having me, man. I've been looking
Yeah,
forward to doing this for some time.
absolutely. Yeah, as have I. So, yeah, let's do the whole, you know, where are you from? How did you get started? All that stuff. I'm curious about your background.
So it was under a full moonlight. I'm kidding. It was. I don't even know what it was, to be fair. So I have been writing ad copy since I was 12, so about 32 and a half years of my, it was not 32, 22 and a half years of my life. I'm not 40 yet. I'm actually still in my 30s. Um, I kind of fell into it kind of backwards because like my parents, okay, so now it makes sense as an adult because I got diagnosed as autistic ADHD, and you'll find that throughout this interview. It's like little tiny things will just come up. But anyway, um, because it was undiagnosed back then, I used to get told by my school teachers that I was quite slow at writing. They're like, he can think very quickly, he speaks really well, but his writing is really bad. Like his cursive is super slow. Painstakingly writes every word out. If he makes a mistake, he rips it out. So he's going to suffer when he goes to the equivalent of middle school in America, which is secondary school in the UK. Um, so my dad just basically told me that, hey, after school, come by the offices, write a story about whatever you see, and just get into the practice of writing daily. So I just got into that practice. Um, about it's about 6 to 8 months into being in middle school, my parents separated. They went their separate way. They separated for about 2 or 3 years, but like during that time period, I used to commute to school. My school commute was a lot longer, so I still wrote stories for my dad, because he'd always asked to see them. Um, but whenever I was on the bus heading to school, because it was an hour each way, I just write stories because I was really introverted. Yes, I made a couple of friends, but I was really shy about everything. So I just sit there and get in my own world, speak to my friends, but write. And that creativity was in me because I used to love drawing, and then the love of drawing kind of left me as a when I was about 12. Um, and then lyrics, music, writing, and this practice my dad put me through, and stories all kind of fed into my brain even more so because I always loved movies. Anyway, fast forward to the time I'm 18. I leave school. I end up leaving my job, which was so I left school at 17. I started working a job and also waiting until I turned 18 to start a network marketing company with a friend of mine. That fell through. I started to learn internet marketing because of it. And then I just realized that I was a copywriter by going to an event one day, speaking to a couple of people, and they were like, "So what are you good at?" I'm like, "Well, I'm terrible at traffic." They're like, "But what are you good at?" And I was like, "Well, I had 30 people. What was it? That's not ridiculous. I was like, 10 people read my blog and seven of them gave me money. And they're like, that's a 70% conversion rate. I was like, oh shit, okay, I didn't know what that is. They're like, people in this room will pay tens of thousands of dollars for anywhere near that. I was like, oh, that's pretty cool. And next thing I know, I just basically start writing copy. This is ridiculous. It's like 2007, 2008. I used to charge $500 to do an entire front end, two upsells, a downsell, five emails, and opt-in, or like within a week was the delivery timeline. And I look at that and go, there's no way in hell I can do that now. Because like back then I was just the market's gone very sophisticated since like I started writing. Like right now you can kind of get away with it, but like back then you can get away with a really good headline like how like if you can't make $2,000 in the next 30 days, then you need to read every word below. Like that would work back then. Today that will get you banned. So you got to really know what you can play with. So that's kind of how I got into like the world of advertising. And truthfully, one of the biggest lessons I picked up from it, because I also used to watch Billy Mays as a kid. I used to like watch trivia shows with my dad and whatever it was, just because he loved that kind of stuff. So I learned how to sell from that kind of world as well. But one of the biggest and strangest lessons I picked up during my time, or at least in my formative years coming up in the copywriting game and stuff like that, was just how to tell a story. Like more than anything else. That was like the key stronghold of everything that taught me the lesson that, you know what, copywriting is the master skill. Because once you know how to do this, everything else is secondary.
Yeah, it's a really incredible sort of cornerstone skill to have, you know,
Oh,
how it
yeah.
can lead and open so many other doors that, you know, not just from your own business, but, you know, it's so nice to have it in the back pocket.
Oh, 100%. The other one would be media buying. If you can do copywriting and media buying well, ooh, you dangerous.
Yeah. So take me back to 12 years old. I mean, I know you said that's when you started writing copy. Were you exposed to any sort of direct response stuff at that age, or was this more like kind of the storytelling, you know, practice that you were doing?
It's kind of both, because remember, like I was exposed to Billy Mays from the time I was 5 to the time I was 7. I used to watch Billy Mays for fun. That was like a household thing. Like my dad loved watching the QVC and home shopping channels, so you just get exposed to Billy Mays.
That's one of my,
So
by the way, that's one of my favorite Mandela effects. Like he never said, but wait, there's more. But everyone thinks he said it, but he never did.
yeah.
It's weird.
Oh my God, I did not know that. That's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I always thought you did.
Yeah.
Maybe it was one of the other ad guys that did it, but like I used to
Yeah.
watch a lot of them. And to be fair, there was a certain comfort about watching late night. So I used to watch wrestling, like the 90s, 2000s, like Attitude Era versus WCW. Huge fan of that. And used to watch the NBA All-Star game, which is on at like 2, 3 in the morning in the UK. And not everything else was on at 2, 3 in the morning. You couldn't watch cartoons. So sometimes you just go watch because you're with family, you just watch like home shopping channel stuff, and you'd always find it funny because it's always weird, like shake weights, or occasionally Tony Robbins, or the P90X program, or whatever it is. But it'd make you think about stuff. And that was the exposure I had. So whenever I used to go write these stories, I used to write them from there. And also on top of that, like hip hop and R&B and stuff like that was a huge part of what brought me up. That's more my culture of what I grew up around. Um, so that was all influenced into it, like everything I was doing. So when I started to write copy, it's the same way I verbalize copy like I do is because in my head it follows a path that also follows a beat.
Oh, interesting. So you see it sort of rhythmically, like kind of musically.
Yeah, it's conversation because conversation is music. If you know what to listen to, it's a very beautiful like musical composition between words, vocals, pitches, tones, punctuation, excitement, sadness, the highs, the lows, everything. And if you study it from that perspective, it actually makes everything else so much easier. And then when you read, write, and listen to copy from those same perspectives and you see it from that kind of area, it makes the copy come alive. It's actually one of the reasons why I actually believe that my copy is as effective as it is.
Yeah, I love playing with those different levers where, you know, you have some sentences that are a little longer and some are shorter, and you can kind of see a little bit of a music come out of it where you generate that rhythm.
Oh, 100%. And again, like one of my life mottos, not my life mottos, but it's a motto that like really stood out to me for a really long time. And that's Ben Franklin's, I'm gonna butcher it 'cause I don't remember. It's Ben Franklin's quote, which is something along the lines of either, what was it? Either live a life worth writing about or write about a life that's worth living or something like that. I can't remember what the quote goes like, but it just stuck in my head. It's like, be really good at writing, go do epic shit. That was like the two things that I was always taught to do. Even if you can't, like I couldn't travel for a really long time, so I was, I couldn't really travel and do epic shit abroad. So I was like, do epic shit at home. So I did. It's kind of a thing. But going back to it, however, there is that not just levers, there are so many little minute, intricate details. Like one of my favorite testimonials I've ever gotten from a client was I'm not going to say the word because I know people get offended by it, but it's the C word. Um, he called me that, and lovingly so because it's a term of endearment in the UK at times.
Cool
In this one,
cat.
it was, yeah, like a very cool cat. Um, Huge insult over in the States. How dare you? How dare you say it's a cool cat? Anyway, um, he basically was going to call me that in a negative, and then he started reading my script because he goes grammatically the script doesn't make sense. It was for VSL, and then once he started reading the script, he called me and he said, that's the first time someone's actually written the script for me so well that it sounds like my own words, that when I was reading it, I didn't need to keep looking down because all I kept thinking was, what's the most natural thing I'd say? And you'd basically written it that way. And again, this comes down from understanding how his composition of notes worked. His composition was like he'll go high, 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 low, mellow, and then like flow across and then go to the next section. Just it's a melody if you know what to look for. Sorry, I'm going off on like a really weird uh what was it?
No, no, yeah,
Metaphor, an analogy, if you will.
yeah, no, no, I like it. Yeah, it's fun to talk about sort of
Yeah.
the deeper mechanics around it.
Yeah. It's like it's one of the things that actually I tell people, like, and again, this is something Shiv did say when we were talking about this. It's the way that so you can fix a lot of external stuff in copy that will make the big difference, like a better headline, better subheadline, tell a better hook, do this, do that. But sometimes it just takes tweaking like one or two little tiny notions to change the entire directive. And I learned this from Trevor Toe Cracker. Shout out to the Toe Cracker himself. I know he was on the show not too long ago. Trevor has did he tell the story about the infamous S thing? Like the one difference in a headline that he wrote, like it was a one letter difference in a headline
I
and
don't
it
think
pulled
so.
400. Okay. It's a great story. Get him to tell it. Next time he's on, just get him to tell it. But like it's a great story that highlights just how simplicity can trump so many things. Um, because sometimes I've just changed the punctuation in a headline changes the dramaticism of what is actually said and how it's said, ultimately changing the conversion of how it's actually perceived. Um, and that's kind of like the small thing because I do live by the credo, small hinges move big doors. If you know how to move the small hinges, you know how to pull the big levers.
Oh, that's great. Um, there may be some people that end up watching this that they're not super familiar with the direct response marketing world or copywriting and all that stuff. Um, in sort of your evolution as a young man, where you kind of, went to the network marketing thing and then kind of fell into the internet marketing world, what were some of the aha moments that you had during that time where you realized the power of this stuff?
Oh God, there are so many. One of my most famous stories I ever always used to tell was I did door-to-door sales for a while, and I was good at the start, and I sucked for a while. And during that time period, I ran into someone that basically said that worked in the real estate market, real estate education in the UK. It was shortly after the 2008 bubble crash, and they had this massive thing going. It was like 15 grand for the whole year of them to train you and like to train you to buy property and everything else. I got approached to write a sales letter for them, and I was young and stupid. I was like 19, so like £2,000 was like a lot of money to me. Like £2,000, 3,000 was a lot of money to me. Um, it is a lot of money to some senses, but back then it was like a huge, substantial amount. It was like 30 grand to me, the equivalent to how I used to see it. Um, and there's three instances. This is the first one, and what I did was basically I wrote the ad, they mailed it, and I got 3% of I think it was 3% or 5%, something ridiculously small like that. Not really small, but average. But just for their first mailings, like whatever they made out of the first direct response mailings, I would get a certain percentage of. If I remember correctly, after everything was said and done, they walked off with £3.5 million in the space of like a week, and I basically ended up getting paid like 80,000 pounds, give or take. And I remember when it happened, I was in the field knocking doors, get a phone call from a bank asking me, "Hey, when can you pay this debt off?" I was like, "Soon. I don't really have the money." And then immediately after, kind of going like, "Okay, it's the bank again." And it's my client going, "Hey, so the bank's going to call you." And I was like, "Okay, bank called me. We just authorized this. How do you know this and the other?" "Yeah, it's clear this money's in your account." And I was like, "Holy shit! I can't do anything the rest of the day." Um, and again, I wish, again, I always like to say, I wish I could have said that bought cars, I bought a house, did a bunch of blow, went with hookers. I wish I could say all that stuff. Travel would have been better. No, all I did was I just paid off debts. That's literally all I did with that money, is just paid off debts and bought stupid shit, like really dumb shit as a 19-year-old would, because clearly you're 19. Um, but anyway, so like that was
That
the
shows some
first.
level of maturity that you paid off the debts at 19.
I tried to. I mean, I immediately I ended up until I fixed my financial education, I used to have highs and lows with it, which again, I think everyone does in entrepreneurship when you don't really know what you're doing. Um, those that do, great job. Those that don't, keep going. You'll eventually get to the promised land and you'll be fine. Um, what was I going with this? Like that was like a big aha moment because it made me realize I could change my life around in a very short space of time. And again, my living expenses were really low. Like my living expenses were practically, I think, like £800, like $1,000 a month, which is nothing. And I was like, holy crap, I'm making that much amount, and I can just screw off and do this other thing. But again, wasn't thinking strategically at the time. The second time I had this was when I ran my own first offer. Like I ran an initial offer for myself like years ago. Wrote the copy to it, wasn't happy with the copy because it just didn't feel right. I was being a perfectionist. I just thought, screw it, run with it. And at that point, it doesn't sound like a lot, but it brought in like $10,000 in the space of like 3 days, like just selling courses. And I was like, holy crap, that actually works. No one really knows me. And those that do know me don't know that they'll be willing to pay this much. Okay, cool. And then just it worked. So I was like, cool, that helped out. The third, which was one of my favorites, when it really started to take evidence and like go into a big space was when I was started to see it was when well, there's a couple of these. I've helped a lot of clients do stuff. Like one of the ones you talked about was where I doubled their money for them. Like the real power for that was basically changing their messaging inside the copy and actually making sure we created a separate offer that ran alongside with it as an upsell. And they just basically sold like gangbusters. Um, Helping clients basically overcome challenges. Like there's been clients that I've got that have never made a single profitable day. Like they just break even and maybe take on $20 for 6 months straight. Went in, fixed their stuff. Next thing you know, they're making like $2,000, $3,000 a week. And it's just like, okay, you weren't doing that profitably. Now you're doing 12 grand a month. Like amazing. Go keep doing more of that. And they eventually did break their own records. But there's just so many instances like that that I can look at and go, copywriting is the right way. The reason I stayed in it for so long as I did, by the way, because again, this is something that people don't discuss because copywriting isn't just meant to be a career that you can live in forever. Copywriting, you have an evolution. You can actually go into offer owner, do your own business. It's fine. The reason I stuck in it for so long was because I became obsessed with playing the game. And the game was what psychological, how can we apply the psychology today? Because that's what copywriting is to me. It's applied psychology through words, through every point of the funnel, the product, the idea, just everything is just fun to play with.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I love the psychology and philosophy behind it, and that's why I think maybe there's some people that are like, "Oh, I love writing, I love books, I love novels." It's like that can definitely be an asset to you, but it's not really the core of what this game is about. It's about touching on those emotions, building those dreams, easing those fears. I love that part. And you mentioned, the evolution of copywriting and how that can, and like we talked about already, it can be a tool in the tool belt, that can lead to so many other things. What do you think most people miss when they don't hit that evolution, or they 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 stick with it too long?
Well, I'd say there isn't a thing of sticking with it too long because there's some people that made a huge, amazing career out of copywriting, and that was their thing. Paris Lombropoulos comes to mind, Kevin Rogers comes to mind, like even Trevor, like Toe Cracker, even he comes to mind. Yes, they've devolved into other things as well, but they built their bones in the industry and they still work in the industry. And I think it becomes what you want it to be. They could do anything and they probably have done other things and they've done fairly well for themselves. Like Halbert did a bunch of things that he was successful at. Sorry, I'm gonna ask again, like what was the exact question that you said? Because like 2 points here that I wanted to make. I wanted to just remember the question.
Yeah, sure.
The evolution of copywriting, how do I see?
Yeah. So if someone has this skill set and they can parlay it into other opportunities and they don't do it, what do you think? Why do you think the reason is? What are they
Ah,
missing that they could?
perfect. Yeah. Self-belief. Honestly, most of the time it's self-belief. I avoided doing my own thing for a really long time because I had a weird fear of running ads. I don't know why. I used to always think like if I run an ad and it fails, I'm screwed. So it's basically a lack of belief in myself and my product, even though I know my product is the shit. It's like, hello, you've got like an insane number of testimonials from people saying how much they love your stuff. Why are you not doing more of this? So it just became like so I believe for a lot of people there's a lack of belief in their own in something, or they haven't found something that they want to stand behind just yet. A really good example of this is a friend of mine, Lawrence. Lawrence basically went from I think he went from being an accountant to a copywriter to running his own author, and now he is killing it. But because he has the skill set of a copywriter, he can actually parlay that and leverage that into a bunch of other areas and actually become a valuable asset. I mean, as a copywriter, one of the best things you can do is find, and something we're going to talk about as well at some point, you can essentially either license out your existing stuff, or you can find existing business owners and partner with them, or people that actually have a great idea and partner with them and take a percentage from the writing that you do. It's a lot of upfront work for you, and the risk is greatly leaned towards you because of how much equity that you put into it. But if you parlay it correctly, it can be a very, very lucrative payoff. You just gotta know who to hitch your wagon to. Oh, and
Yeah.
one thing I will say as well, ethics play a huge part in this game that a lot of people are not willing to talk about. A lot of people are now going into the world of ethically marketing, which my whole thing is if you've been an unethical piece of crap most of your life, you don't get to talk about ethics. I don't care how much self-help work you've done. I don't care how much therapy you've gone into. Look, you've not until you've paid those people back, unless you've actually done a true 180, which I'm not the judge of, you could have. But until then, don't be like, oh yeah, last year I was an a-hole, this year I'm enlightened. Don't do that. That's an insult to those people that never actually crossed over to the dark side.
Yeah, it's funny. I've had this thought in my mind that I will make a post here soon at some point, but I keep thinking it's like it seems to me that the people like the marketers that have a crisis of conscience mid-career, they're the ones that never stopped to think, what are my values? Or they adopt the ethics of a guru that may or may not have their customers' best interests in mind from the very get-go. And it's like that, that German, or that experiment of the German guards. I don't
Hmm.
even know if it was German, but
No,
that
it was the
experiment where they raised the shock level, right?
oh yeah, no, they did do that. That was an
Yeah.
American. I think it was the Milford.
Yeah, Milf yeah.
Yeah. The
Yeah.
Milgram experiments. That's
That's
the name.
it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. And nursing company.
Trying to explain
Yeah.
the
The
obedience
shock
of,
value.
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and that comes down to authority because like there's so much stuff in there. By the way, this is like my other stuff I'm really into is like just understanding how cults are built, authority programs. I mean, like one of my closest friends is one of my friends, I should say, is a guy called Chase Hughes. He's a really good guy. Chase has an incredible mind for like nonverbal authority and communication. And honestly, a lot of the stuff that he's actually taught me is actually yeah, has influenced a lot of my copywriting and how I actually have my philosophy around it. But going back to it, yeah, the crisis of consciousness will come for you at some point. And it's interesting to see who does what because there are a few marketers that have actually like delved deeper into this crisis of consciousness and 180, and there are even more who've kind of doubled down on it and become even bigger scumbags. So,
Yeah.
it's really interesting. And again,
Yeah.
I'm not one to label any. Oh, actually, that's a lie. I am one person to label some people scumbags and be like, you are a scumbag though. Like, I'm sorry, you just are. You can change your ways, but I don't want to hang with you.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. So we've kind of established, that ethical grounding is really important, especially when you're going off on your own and doing your own thing, partnering with
Yeah,
people, choosing who to associate with. I
and
know you
who
have,
you are as a person.
yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. So I was saying, and who you are as a person, because that's a
Yeah,
big thing too.
yeah,
Values.
yeah, absolutely. Um, so when someone, kind of is working on their offers or trying to understand their audience and they're trying to bring it all together, what are some tips you have? I know you have some shortcuts to researching the audience to creating offers. What are your favorite
Ooh,
pieces of advice there for people?
so many. Okay, let's see. I'm gonna give a few for each. Let's go with research. Research is one of my favorite ones. So I enjoy research on a different level because people are people and people are people. So it's just like pattern recognition and understanding. But after you've done this for as long as I have and worked in as many markets and researched as many people and blah 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 and all this that the other, trust me, you just kind of you're able to pick it out of thin air and figure out what that person's motivating factor is and what drives them. But you can read like lots of great books. There's books like Laws of Human Nature, 48 Laws of Power. These are books on cults and stuff like that, Propaganda by Edward Bernays. These are all absolutely wonderful books to read. Or even one I'm reading right now is a book called For the Culture. Definitely a big shout out to that. My client recommended me to that, and it's a really good book. The guy that wrote it used to manage Jay-Z and Beyonce's social media or like platforms and stuff like their profiles and whatever. And he's a genius at this kind of thing. So it's like it's really cool to see um how people actually are interacting online through different mediums. And essentially, my point being here, they are great books for study. And also, you can use ChatGPT. Like ChatGPT is another great way of doing it if you want to shortcut it. Another easier shortcut if you want to, if you're a giant movie buff like I am, find your avatar in a movie. You will always find the person that you want to sell to in the movie. And what I mean by that is you will find the main character your audience wants to be in a movie. Like, for instance, if your character wants to be John Wick, now you can actually go, okay, what does John Wick stand for? These values. What does my audience stand for? These values. How can I use that persona to create an avatar for them to buy to or whatever it is or follow? And essentially, what you do as a marketer is associate your stuff to the characteristics of John Wick without ever mentioning John Wick, and people end up becoming associated to it. And if you want an example of this, like a really simple one, we'll use John Wick for this one as well, is guns, for instance. You can literally talk about like actually guns are too obvious. Suits, looking good. Oh my God. Or even working out. Working out. Let's go with something abstract as working out. You can just say, like, did you notice that John Wick was never out of shape, even though he didn't train for 5 full years in the military, he was away. He was still cut, he was still strong, blah, 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 blah. His still reflexes was there. And the reason were for these reasons. And that's one way of leading it down the obvious. The other way is you can actually say, you can look at the study of the psychology of John Wick and go, by the way, I know I'm picking on John Wick a lot, but it's just we're here right now. Um, his psychology, like the three words, he's focused, determined, and unrelenting. Let's say those are the three. I know those aren't the three from the movie, but he, but we'll just say those are the three. Anyway, you just create your avatar, the person that you're selling to. You tell them what my program will do is help you hit A, B, or C. My thing will help you become more like more stronger, more committed, more driven, more unrelenting, whatever it is that you want to put as the adjective of what they will become. You can put that in there, and in their mind, they're already associating it, especially if you're having the person speak in the same register, if it's a VSL, or having the whole copy written out in such a way that it looks like it would be him reading it.
Hmm.
And again, this comes down to studying tonal pattern and how people actually interact and all the other fun stuff. Like the reason why Keanu Reeves is an incredible actor is because he plays what we call the wooden man very, 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 very well. For him, it's he wants the everyday cinema goer to put on the mask that he's portraying on the screen for them to actually become it. Think of how many people dressed up as Neo after the Matrix. Like it was an insane amount of people, right? Like we lived through that. It was the thing. Even if we were young, we lived through seeing that, and it was quoted and it was in social culture for such a long time and still is. You have all of this there. So it's just understanding what that movie is and basically parlaying it a little bit better. How to come up with your offers and create them, speak to your audience is one of the easiest ways to do it. Another way is if you have a good idea, you can social test your program very quickly. Create a quick social media post if you have a decent sized following. If you don't have a following at all, write an ad, literally write an ad to a basic landing page that just gets people to opt in and it just sells your premise. And sell your premise is I'm going to show you how to do blank in blank over a blank time. If you're into this, give me your name and email address. I'll notify you when it's ready. What I'm aiming to do is this, that, the other, or you can just say, and then on the thank you page, you can just say, hey, thanks so much. I'll let you know it's there. If you want to influence how this product is created, fill out this quick 2 minute survey. Don't have to give them anything at that point. You can just ask them to do you a favor after they've actually opted in. They'll say yes to you, like a huge majority will. Now you know what to sell them. Then you can
Yeah, I love
email those
that.
people and actually move forward with it. Like this is a thing that's worked for years. Another way that you can really create programs quickly, It depends. I hate slide decks. I really do. I hate creating programs in slide decks, but a couple of my buddies really create them in an incredible, unique manner. Um, but some of the ways you can do so, again, you can also create like videos like this. You can hop on podcasts. You can transcribe your stuff. You can actually do a thing where I'm testing out where I know what I want to say, just don't like creating the freaking slides. So what I do is I actually do the whole deliverable of an idea in a single 1 hour clip, and then I send it off to a uh an outsourcing VA company, and I get them to basically line up and create the slides for me based on what I've said, and I just go through and just edit them very quickly. So it takes me like a fraction of the time to enjoy it. If you're creating a physical product, make sure that it's tested, make sure that it's something you guys actually have a proprietary blend over, make sure that you're not actually competing with anyone else. And if you, what I mean by that is that no one else really has the exact same blend. If they do, because you're white labeling a service, talk about how your stuff is different, not how your stuff is better, because that is really what they're looking at. Better doesn't mean anything because better for them sometimes just means bigger expense. Whereas if you say something along the lines of different, they actually stand out a lot more. Um, and then, you got split testing and stuff like that. Always have between 3 and 5 like hooks or angles in mind whenever you create stuff because it will actually help you out massively. People will actually get bored of the hook in the and out, even if it runs for a full year. And they'll basically need something new, and that will help out massively. I'll give you an example, by the way, of a really great ad that everyone loves that kind of sucks. It's the do you actually know which one I mean, by the way? Do you know which ad is like one of the counted as one of the greatest ads of all time that sucks?
I don't know.
Wall Street Journal, Story of Two Men.
Story of Two Men.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think I'm familiar.
Oh, okay, cool. You'll definitely know this one when you hear it because it's one of the first things you ever learn. Two men start off at the same age, going to college, having the same life, whatever it is. Within 30 years, one of them is a janitor, or one of them is working low level at this company. The other actually owns the company and is running it. The difference, one of them read the Wall Street Journal, the other did not. Like that is a thing. The reason why everyone says that pulls really, really well is because it actually pulled consistently at a 2.75% conversion rate, if I remember correctly, over a really long stretch of time, because it could be rerun constantly in different areas and different parts of the list that they had. If you have a massive list like the Wall Street Journal did at the time and you were mailing things out, you burn that list out on selling Wall Street Journal subscriptions to the majority of people. Like, for instance, if I hit you with my one of the highest selling ones did like 17 to 20% conversion rate on the mailing on like the direct mail they did, which is wonderful. But now how are you going to sell the people that opened that original story that didn't buy from it? How are you going to get them to buy? Well, you send them another piece of mail, and that's when the story of the two men was basically mailed out after 2 or 3 tries, and it usually got them on the third. And it became legendary because it was one of the longest running ads that worked great as a money generator, but it was never like this knockout big win home run of the sales letter. Which, by the way, you also want to learn how to know, not just how to write home runs, but write controls that last for years. Because again, a solid 2.75% conversion rate still brings you money. And that's money you can put towards other things if you need to. But anyway, off my high horse of what it is. Um, yeah, I just feel like there's enough of a change in the marketplace that you can actually look at things and go, what works, what doesn't, and how can I actually make a big difference. By the way, I don't remember what my train of thought was the way we began.
It's okay. We're
I,
going.
I know I know we're helping people that were like how to do their offers. That was the other thing. And
Yeah.
there is one last thing. Don't change your media sources all the time. Like pick one media source, figure that shit out, and then basically move on.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I like that. No, it's all good. We're going where no man has dared before. Um,
What the depths of my mind? Do I dare? We'll see.
the scariest place of all. Um,
The
let's
quiet
talk
room.
about buyer. I know we touched on conversion rates and what gets people to take action, what not. Let's go deeper on the buyer psychology. What do you love about that? What sort of tips do you have there?
Oh my God, biopsychology is my favorite because it's just so interesting to see what gets someone to say yes. Now, the mass majority of sales letters, especially when I was coming up, used to pitch this whole idea of stab them in the back, twist the knife, and make sure they pull it out in order to actually buy from you. It's entirely based on pain. And that's what forced me. I heard this from Jay Abraham first, which is about you don't want customers in pain, you want them in pleasure, because when they're in pleasure and not in pain, they stay for the long term. The AOV actually becomes a higher number. Because yes, you might outsell me in the beginning, and a perfect example would be um, someone that basically sells $50,000 worth of stuff to a mailing list one time, and then over the course of the year maybe pulls out another 25, maybe another 30K out of it, versus the guy who pulls like say 35 grand or even 30 grand from a list, and they pay him every single year. He makes a consistent 30K because he's providing them with pleasure. Pain is wonderful, but realistically people will always like they want to know what the pain is. Like, hey, poke me a little bit, maybe a little bit of a prod, but don't stab me, don't hurt me, don't belittle me. Rather just make me realize I'm being an idiot, and then gently help me towards the place of pleasure where I can stay for a long time. And if you understand that principle, it becomes really easy to get people to say yes to things, because you understand how to actually move them towards that process of essentially feeling pleasure, because that's a big thing. Um, so that's one aspect of like biopsychology. The other stuff that's really interesting is just like what drives us. Because some people it drive like there's the Enneagram, and the Enneagram has like nine different pathways of what drives us and what scares the crap out of us. And each one works differently. Like a type 8 would be all about domination and power. Dominate your marketplace, become the greatest alive, blah, blah, blah. They'll buy. Versus a type 2 who just wants to help people. And type two or type three, so one of those two, like they just want to help people, and all they want to be the headline that will work with them is like, here's how you can spread your message to help more people actually bring a better life for themselves, or here's how you can spread your message that will help more people actually attain X, Y, and Z and help them reach the goals that you want them to reach. Just you change the entire perspective. So biopsychology becomes really interesting because you can sell the same product 9 to 18 different ways, and no one really like attempts all 18. They try like two, and that's it, they give up. But there's 18 different ways to do it. Um, so like biopsychology just gets me smiling, gets me thinking, because it's what happens next. And again, by the way, a really good place to study biopsychology is the dating world. Because what you find, and this is how I developed my sales letter template, is a lot of the conversations I had with people that ended successfully, that were quite fun. I, make new friends, go on dates, whatever it is, or like we just keep in touch, and it just like was a successful back and forth, was based on like kind of the sales letter template I use, which is it's all conversational. Here's how you start off a good conversation. Here's how you basically now you can do the thing where you can actually put the I don't usually use a pre-headline in real life, if you will, like a preamble before I say hello. I just my opening line to anyone's, "Hi, I'm Adil. How are you?" And everyone just kind of goes, "Oh, he's friendly, cool." Whereas if I was being a little bit smarter, I could use something like if I overhear someone talking about like, I don't know, um, how they feel they lack self-confidence, and I'm like, "Hey, I totally get that. I used to be there myself." And the headline that I could potentially go with like, "I don't know about you, but if you've ever felt like shit wasn't really kicking off right, life kind of felt weird, I might have something for you. You cool if we talk for a minute?" And that's kind of the opening. And you don't need an opening paragraph to that. You can have a conversation. Hi, I'm Adil. Nice to meet you. Cool. By the way, just the way I was thinking about this, and then go into it. But usually I'd have an opening paragraph in my sales copy, which would always go into a way of setting up an open loop. So your headline, your subheadline grabs their attention. The open loop gives them something to be promised about that you'll actually pay off fairly soon. You leave the door open to introduce yourself, and then you go down that pathway and actually ride it out all the way to the end. And biopsychology follows almost the same track path, which is uh, by the way, I know sales letters have this where they don't tell you who the person is until the very end. You've seen those sales letters?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't like them because what it is most people actually are just thinking, "Well, who the hell are you? What do you want? What's going on?" They're not thinking about what you're saying. They're thinking about who you are. Because since the birth, so like over the last 10 years, social media has changed it so much that basically biopsychology has become more sophisticated today, which is wonderful. Made it harder to sell some stuff, which is annoying, but also wonderful because it's challenging us. But most oddly enough, it's become very important who you are. Like if you don't tell me who you are, I'm not, what are you hiding? Whereas if you tell me who you are immediately, I can put that shit to ease, and I can actually listen to your message and make my own informed decision. So that's why you want to say it as quickly as possible. But you don't want to lead with, "Hi, I'm so and so who's got X, Y, and Z incredible shit, whatever it is. Look at how great I am," because people will be mad at you. You got to meet them where they are. You got to give them something they can be promised to. Then you introduce yourself, tell them how you got to the journey of where you are, and then sell them the thing. because at that point they go, oh, this person actually relates to me. They understand who I am, and they actually get the problem I'm feeling. It's not just someone else. Wonderful. It kind of just moves forward. But that's the areas of biopsychology that you can really look at. Like I said, tiny hinges move big doors, and I know I've spoken a lot right now and at great length, but there's a lot of like really tiny golden nuggets that you'll pick up throughout that. Or at least I hope
Yeah.
there is.
No, yeah, I agree. And it's interesting, like, a traditional advice you might hear in copywriting is like maybe you lead with who you are. If who you are is a well-known brand and there's a lot of credibility there existing already. But
Yeah.
it's really interesting that you say it's kind of evolved to this place where we're sort of in the personal brand influencer era and people want to know, I at least want to know who this is because whatever product I may be interested in or solution I may be interested in, I want to have that personal connection. That's what it seems like to me.
Yes, and if we go even further, it's even further than that. It's about since the 80s. Stranger danger. Like,
Yeah.
why would you have to trust me? You have to know, like, and trust me before you do stuff. Yes, you don't need to do that in order to buy from me, but it makes buying from me and repeatedly a lot easier. And if you've been programmed stranger danger, see who they are, look behind the mask, that kind of thing, you're gonna look for it. And I'll give you an example. This is a perfect example, Michael. Let's say we didn't know each other. Say we didn't know each other. I walked up to you and we just hit it off, had a huge chat. And this is a very stereotypical, like, guy thing that I've noticed guys do is we'll have a conversation. We won't ask for the other person's name, but we'll want to know their name. Women will tend to say hello to each other. Oh, hi, I'm so so, whatever it is. I found the best success for me is when I have a conversation with someone. We can be talking about whatever it is, and if I want to be friends with them, halfway through, I was like, I'm really sorry, what's your name? Or like, hi, I'm Adil. What's your name? And you'll be like, oh, Michael, cool. It's like, great to meet you, Michael, blah, blah, blah. Have a back and forth, have a little chat. And the reason that works is because psychologically that bonds me away from being a threat to being a potential friend. And that right there is the exact reason why we introduce ourselves very early on in sales copy, because once you know us as friend, because in your head you know our name and you know a little bit about us, now in your head you've gone, oh, that's Adil who went to this way and did this other thing. Now I kind of know a little about him. Yeah, I'm connected to him somehow. Yay. And you kind of move forward. And other times people read that and be like, I don't like you. I'm like, good, don't like me. We don't have to be friends. It's okay.
It makes
It's
me
fine.
think of that meme where, there's a photo of five guys sitting around, looking down at the barbecue and says like, guys will do this for 5 hours straight and never ask each other's name.
Pretty much. I mean, we would, but also at the same time, if you want to actually be friends with those four other people, you'd be like, "Hi, I'm Jim," and I was like, "Oh, hey, Jim, what's up? I'm Steve, Larry, James, and Stu.
Yeah,
Cool,
yeah.
friends now."
Yeah, that it could definitely, I think it's definitely an over exaggeration, but it touches on your point where, maybe you take a little bit of extra time to kind of delve into whatever's going on that's
Yeah,
relevant.
if you do that, you become relevant to that person's mind and that person's life. And this is, again, we've been in the personal brand era for absolutely ages. But again, even if I was selling financial services to you. If you know that my name is Phil, I used to be a financial advisor. I hated the way people were getting screwed over, and I figured out a way to finally help the little man like yourself get on the get onto the wealth ladder. Then you're going to trust me way more than, hey, if you want to get on the wealth ladder, let me show you how. Phil Davis here, and I'm a former retired blah 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 blah. But enough about me. Let's talk about you. You're like, all right, Phil, I know like three things about you. If you're like, oh shit, Phil actually's been through the ringer. He's worked with some clients and shit. I want to talk to them.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Yeah. Um, One thing I want to go back to that was interesting to me, about kind of identifying who your audience would like to be like, a movie character, something like that. How do you get to the place where you say, okay, my audience, this market, this solution, John Wick is their guy? Like, how do you go about that?
It's really interesting in a way because I don't have a direct pathway in my head for that anymore. So I've kind of, it's just become very natural for me to actually go, oh, that person would totally buy this. I know who to write for. But if you're starting out, I think the best thing you can do is just like there's a really good book on how to create character arcs, which are incredible. Um, And when you create character arcs, it's very similar to writing funnel copy, but when you're creating character arcs, you can start seeing them in other media and read a lot of books, consume a lot of media. You'll see why you're like start seeing who you gravitate towards on both the good and the bad side of a movie, like which villain's your favorite, which hero is your favorite, why. And then as you start delve into those reasons and see how you see yourself in the stories, look at threads, go, who's that person's favorite character from this movie? Why is it that person? And people will tell you exactly what it is. Like, one of my favorite animes to watch is Bleach. Just a huge fan of Bleach. There's a guy called DBZ Imran, shout out to him on YouTube, who just does breakdowns of this show like really, really well. I like his channel, like how he does his vibe. Um, but he gives a lot of insight into like how characters are seen, what they do, what their beliefs are, what their motives are, and then I can see how people actually relate to that, because you can see it in the comment section. And that way, like someone goes, "Oh, so and so is my favorite character." You're like, "I can see what you value. There's a reason why you like Arnie. There's a reason why you like Stallone. There's a reason why you like this era of movie. There is a reason, and it will actually reveal a lot about you." And
Mhm.
it's a character study. That's what you got to do, is you just got to study people.
So there might be someone watching this, I can imagine, who says, okay, Adil, this is great. I love the sort of personal aspect to it, especially from the sales process. But my business, my company, we don't have a face as a brand. We don't have a personal brand. What sort of
Mhm.
advice do you have for people selling stuff like that?
Could you give me an example of something they're selling?
Let's say it's an e-commerce product, physical product that yeah doesn't necessarily have the owner front and
Doesn't need the
center.
owner. Yeah,
Yeah,
but it doesn't need the owner. And you're not. And if you okay, are you writing a long form sales piece in the traditional sense for an ecom product in this instance?
I would say probably not because those
It's
tend to be
ecom.
more personal. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's say it's a shorthand sales letter. Then what you're doing is just taking the headline, the subheadline, you're going directly into what's in it for them. And but here's how you differentiate. You tell them why it's good for them, and then how you are related to this. For instance, this company's founding belief was blank, and then you relate it to back to that, because every even ecom businesses get carried away with the about us page, because there is an area in sorry, if you have a solid about us page where people get to know you, even if it's a made up story that's there, people will believe that and actually keep you on there. It'll be your brand story, what there is now. Again, for ethics and for actual simplicity, tell a real story. We're three friends that came together because we had an idea of how to sell jewelry, because we knew that it was a great product that worked with a great marketplace. That's where it started. As we developed, we started looking at different things, different intricacies, and that's what we've got for you today. That's why all our line has this blank, blank, and blank, or it's what we're building towards to replace our lines with this, that, the other. But for now, we're starting out with this. It's a great way. You can actually hook people in to actually follow your story and your brand with you. And if there isn't like a singular, even a company identity, there's nothing that you can hook into, then go sell the benefits. Just literally sell how like how it's different, what are the benefits, and then sell. Don't worry about the price. Sell. Actually close the goddamn sale. Most people don't do this correctly. It really bugs me that people don't know how to close.
To someone who's struggling with that,
Yeah.
what would you say to them then?
Oh, so many ways. Okay, so like
Closing,
one
yeah.
of my favorite things, going back two questions, one of the things I didn't answer on that was biopsychology. Biopsychology is all about removing the fear of taking action to the people, right? And the same thing goes here. When you're closing, you're just removing the fear of taking action. So if I said to you right now, like you can walk across this lake without drowning, but you have to take the first step with me. And your brain, and the entire time I've not told you what's in the water, I've not like set your nerves aside and not already like put you at a calm state, you're not going to walk across with me. But if you're chill, if you're relaxed, if I made you do some breathing exercises, if I've told you, hey, this isn't going to harm you, I'm going to be taking every step of the way with you. Come walk with me. And then you're like, what do I do next? You're just like, here's what you do next. Take the first step, take the second step, take the third step. By the time you're there, you're over the water. It's fine. And the same thing goes in with sales. It's the reason why I like doing the stuff I do with different like psychological pipe bombs. Like one of my favorite ones was Enter Your Regular Details was one I came up with for a close for years ago. So like anything that's directive towards that is something I created. Um, which is just essentially a way of telling people, here's what you do next. here's what you click this, go here, do this other thing. You'll see this page, you'll receive this thing in about this much time. This will happen. You just slow people off of the idea that their money's going to get taken and stolen from them. Rather, you give them a step by step. And this is why I say you want to remove as much fear as possible from the beginning of the sales. That's why it's pleasure driven, that they actually love the fact they can go with you.
Hmm.
And they'll stay with you for a lot longer as well, by the way. And also, as an aside, something that people don't talk about enough, and we'll get back to the closing in a second. People forget that if you sell someone on pain, the moment you fuck up, world's crashing down, trust is lost, they're not going to come back to you. But if someone loves you and you fuck up, oh, it's okay. Just so happens. They'll make up an excuse for you. It's fine. And again, it's valid reasoning, but it's a wonderful way of actually living. It just makes life a lot easier. But coming back to it, as I said, closing has a formula. It's really simple. Here's what you do next, explain the damn thing, and then tell them what to do to buy, and then give them a guarantee. If there is guarantee, if there is no guarantee, just say all sales are final. Um, but if you need any help, reach out to our support and we'll be here to help you. And then you do your bonuses. Don't put your bonuses before you close.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Um,
Ooh, sorry about that.
yeah, yeah.
You guys heard my neck crack. I did not expect that to be as loud.
No, I didn't
Damn.
hear it. Was it a loud one?
Yeah, it was real loud. That's good though. Okay, cool, cool, cool. I'm glad that
Cool.
didn't pick up.
Um, you mentioned it earlier in this conversation, and I know you posted about this recently too. Um, Having the autistic ADHD part of your personality, your brain, how do you think that's helped you kind of see the world differently and approach things differently and, you know,
It's just like
compose
how
everything that you've done?
great word, by the way. So the way I put it was for the longest time, it felt like I was walking north and nothing on the map was making sense. Like I was being told, hey, you should see this over here, you should see this, that over there, you should jump over this thing. And I'm walking like, no, I don't see any of this shit. What do you mean walk across the bridge? That's no bridge here. It's like, mate, what the, it's crazy. And then when I found out that I was ADHD, I was like, okay, this makes a little more sense. When I found out I was autistic ADHD, I was like, oh, this makes so much more sense now. Flip the map around, go the right way. And essentially, what that did is it freed me because it makes sense to why I'm so obsessive over like little things like how people think, what they do, how they actually perform. It's the reason why my copywriting ability grew to where it was and why I'm like a dog with a bone. I will basically hold on for dear life for that thing, even if I want to let go of it, I can't. It's because it's that. But the autistic ADHD also actually stopped me from feeling guilty for not talking about the other things in my life that I'm passionate about. Like, yes, I talk a little bit about my martial arts, but I don't talk about like I do talk about something, but I don't talk about other things in my life, like my religion, as much as as I do usually, or my relationships, or the friends I'm around, or what I do, or like barbecues, or cooking, or everything. Like I'll mention it, but I won't go into the depth that I can. Um, and the reason for that is because that's allowed me to have privacy. And that's kind of like from the autistic ADHD. It's allowed me to have permission to only show certain aspects of my life while also safeguarding the bits that I actually value the most for myself and having very strong boundaries around. The other as well is that it's kind of freed me to just forgive myself for whenever for, okay, how to put this? The last 10 years have been the hustle culture bros of all the time. Like it's kind of funny how we came from like the copywriting industry, the digital marketing industry was basically we don't want to get a corporate job, we're going to work from home and fuck around our entire time. Then it went from that to we're going to all be corporate now to like what the hell are you doing? To now it's kind of corporate. Like to the I remember like when I write copy, it takes about 3 months for me to deliver something because I'm thinking, I'm creating, I'm composing. You don't want to rush genius. It takes time. Nowadays people are like, yeah, I need the sales left done by like Wednesday. And I'm like, no. They're like, we'll find someone else. I'm like, but it won't be as good though. Like you don't understand. It's like it's become so corporate that they don't understand nuance anymore. Um, and I think that's kind of like the big thing is like before, because of that burnout, I used to get mad if I wasn't working all the time. Now I actually enjoy taking time off. Like I genuinely look forward to it. Like if I've got like an example would be Tuesday. I had a lot of work to get done. I was getting my work done. I got what I needed done as what I like to call like the hit the level that I need to hit, and then I took the rest of the day off. I had a wonderful time. I had a great freaking Tuesday. Enjoyed myself, watched a couple of movies, went for a nice long walk, saw a few friends. That was all possible. I got to reconnect with the people I care about because I made that conscious decision to be like, it's okay to do this. And I think that came from the ADHD autistic side of my brain, where I feel comfortable that I can take time off now. Now, does that mean that it diminishes my drive? No. It just means that right now I give myself what I need for what I need it. And then eventually I'll very likely come back into like the full form, like pushing harder than I need to. And that those come in sprints and they're quite nice.
And then before you kind of if you had those moments of rest, relaxation, did you feel you said you feel kind of guilty that you were taking it?
Oh, entirely. Like,
Yeah.
are you kidding me? I couldn't take a day off. I think at one point I didn't take a day off in 10 years. Like literally did not take a day. I was working every single day. Like even when I was like taking time, oh, I'm gonna go see friends, whatever it is. On the way there, I'm writing stuff in my phone.
Right.
I'm hanging out with friends like, guys, could you give me like 5 minutes? I just need to call this client or whatever it is. Or, oh, hey, there's a sale coming in. Guys, I just got to do a sales call. I'm really sorry. Come back in 20 minutes. Oh, cool. I made a sale. That's wonderful. But you're supposed to be hanging out with us. So just missed 20 minutes of time with my friends. So
Yeah.
it's about valuation and also knowing exactly what you want, really.
Yeah. Sounds like you've arrived at a better way of living, which is yeah, a major part of the the barefoot rider, the work from home. It's like it's what you're sold in the beginning, and then I
Yeah.
think maybe sometimes ambition can consume that original idea.
Oh, it really does. It really does. But at the same time, you learn some lessons.
Yeah, that's all we
Yeah.
can do.
Always,
Um,
100%.
so I know that, in your past you've also really enjoyed mentoring, fellow copywriters or business owners. What is it about that mentorship, that coaching that you love?
Ooh, that's a good question. Because it's really interesting. It's a labor of love for me from time to time because mentoring people feels I don't have kids yet, so like it feels like I have kids whenever I mentor people because and what I mean by that is I get frustrated. I can be a real pain in the butt. I know I am. Like I tell people if you're gonna work with me, just realize I'm probably gonna get mad at you at least once or twice over something really dumb, and I'm gonna apologize later on. You just gotta let me blow that one out, and it's most likely gonna be you repeating the same mistake for the fifth time after me telling you not to do it. It's gonna be like, God damn it, why? And I'll make it funny afterwards. You'll laugh about it afterwards. It's fine. It's calm. But what I love about it is that it gives me a chance to impart the years and years of knowledge that I've actually picked up. I mean, I've worked in over 400 marketplaces. I've successfully done that in 400 marketplaces. I've worked in tens of thousands of campaigns. Um, all that knowledge has got to go somewhere. I don't have at the moment I'm learning to have the patience to write a book, but I'm really enjoying passing that knowledge off to other people. And sometimes there's things that I'm afraid to test out that I will give my junior to try out because they're willing to try. Like my mentee, they're willing to try. And they do. And then you see the data and you go, holy crap, it worked. And now that just basically adds a layer of confidence in my brain to be like, okay, now I can reuse this whenever I need to. Um, so it gives me like more of a wider testing subject group as well, which is really cool. And I get to see the results that people have. Like and also just an aside, there's no better feeling than seeing someone struggling at something, finally getting it, and it being like a game changer for them. Like it's wonderful when you see that. Like one of my guys, Anthony, bless him. Anthony never used to write bullet points very, very well. Like his bullet points used to be a page long. Like a single bullet point will be a page long. Like that's not a bullet point, dude. That's just a point that you're
That's a
making.
heavy duty bullet.
Yeah. And then like eventually when we did the trend to help him actually like succinctly explain a bullet point, his bullet points were so sharp. Like genuinely, like I read them and I'm like, damn, I want to buy. I actually did buy two programs that he wrote copy for as well because they were so good. But that's what I love. And as a side note, one of the things that I do feed off this a little bit of my ego. One of my favorite egoic parts is someone saying that I permanently live in their brain. Like that's actually a very running joke amongst my mentees. They're like, if we've been around long enough, they're like, whenever I copy, I just hear Adil's voice in my brain going, "Nope, don't do that. Don't put that ellipsis. That don't you dare do that." I'm like, "Yeah, that happens." But I enjoy it, and also, you know, I hate bad advertising. I hate unethical stuff. So the more people I can influence in the right way, the more people I can actually help out with the good advertising stuff, the more we can actually perpetuate some good in the world, and hopefully, for the better. You never know.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. That ripple effect
Yeah.
is real. So, you've had obviously an amazing career, amazing journey. And I know we haven't touched on it yet, but since you were 19 and had all that cash, you've traveled, you've had some great experiences. What are you looking forward to next in your next chapter of life?
Well, I kind of want to correct that a little bit. I didn't travel a lot during my 20s, and it wasn't because it was only because I couldn't, because there's a whole situation that's kind of funny that's coming to a head right now,
Oh
which
yeah,
is
you
nice.
mentioned that 10 years
Yeah,
you couldn't travel. What,
10
what
years
was
can
that?
travel.
Yeah.
That was because like I was born in Africa but raised in the UK. So I have a Tanzanian passport, but I don't have a UK passport. I have a kind of like a pseudo citizenship. Basically, I have the equivalent of a no time limit green card. Um, which is hilarious because I've lived here since I was 4. Um, so when I applied for my citizenship, they actually sent all my birth certificate, my passport, everything to the wrong address and didn't tell me about it for like a little while, like for like 2 years they didn't tell me. Um, which obviously makes it really, really hard. And then this is when I tell people, if you tell me God ain't got a sense of humor, let me tell you this punchline because it's a great punchline. So I go from 2012, 13 without a passport, all the way like for years, and then the Tanzanian government comes in, they upgrade. They're now they're like, hey, if you want to prove that you're Tanzanian, you need your birth certificate, your dad's birth certificate, your mom's birth certificate, your grandparents' birth certificate. I was like, dude, are you aware what country you are? You didn't have those records. Okay, you're making this shit up. Anyway, eventually we sorted out before my dad passed away, may God rest his soul. My dad managed to get me my passport back, so I got my Tasmanian passport back. And I only got that, and this is why I say if you don't think God has a sense of humor, do you want to know the date that I got my passport back? Do you want to
Tell
take
me.
a guess?
Uh,
Okay.
no, tell me.
I got it in the middle of 2020. That's right. In the middle of the pandemic, when everyone else couldn't travel, I got my passport. Like, here you go. Now you can travel. I'm like, what the shit? This is not. It's like so upset. The first place I traveled to was Amsterdam, and this is before Brexit kicked in. And I remember thinking on the plane, going, man, if I die on this plane right now, that's a great punchline. That is a like I would be mad as shit, but I'd be like, that's a good punchline. That'll be funny as hell to go out on. Man travels for the first time in like 10 years and dies on the plane. I mean, it's a 45-minute flight as well. That's the best part. Anyway, so what's next in my life right now is kind of like over the next couple of chapters of my life are more moving towards fulfilling a few goals that I have in my life, like getting my body back in shape the way I want it. That's kind of a big one. Traveling a lot more over the next couple of years, because I really, really want to see as much of the world, if not all the world. I'm starting a new podcast, which is cool. I've got my encyclopedia of copy. So basically, I love teaching, but the problem is there's only one me and there's only so many finite hours I can do. And I want to do some other stuff as well in my life that I just want to enjoy. So what I've essentially done is I'm creating stuff that has all my knowledge documented in one area. So, and I made it super affordable. So anyone can go in, they can pick it up and they can make their return on investment inside 90 days. If you can't make your return on investment in 90 days, I got a question if you're really good at what you can do, and maybe you need to check another career. But this is a great way of doing it, and the copy basically like the stuff that helps you out do your own thing and makes your life easier as a business owner and as a copywriter. Because even if you are a business owner that isn't a copywriter, it's really good to know how to do this stuff anyway, so it's easy. Um, but other than that, travel, food, work, podcast, chill. That's kind of like the next couple of like. Oh, and I'm writing a couple of books. That's the next as well.
I love that.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't covered in our conversation, or that we did and you thought about something and you said, "Oh, I want to come back to that you
I'm
want
going
to
to
talk
say there's
about?"
one thing we haven't there's one thing we haven't covered, and that is essentially the art of thinking. And this is something I don't think people do enough of. studying history teaches you like a really interesting aspect of how people think and what they do and how they do things. And don't just read Western history, by the way. Read histories from all across the world. It's really fascinating because you see like cycles. But essentially what I'm getting at is that the more you think about things critically, and there is a notion of action. Action is amazing because the more you do, the more likely you'll get a result. But there has to be time for thinking. If you don't put in the time for thinking, you are setting yourself up for failure. Because the way to use your mind to work in your favor is to actually gain multiple perspective and then to actually think deep about it. It's how a chess master like looks at things, by the way. And by the way, everything I've just said right now, could you just disregard all of it and become successful? Of course you can. But what I'm saying is this is just some of the stuff that I found that makes your life infinitely easy and slightly more fulfilling. Um, is just see how people think, how they breathe. Look at people watch when you're out. Don't be secluded in your own world all the time, but rather see how people consume. And also, as an aside, you can consume what your audience consumes. Like one of my favorite questions to ask is, what movie are you watching right now? What book are you reading? What are you doing at this moment? And that gives me an insight towards someone that's in my audience that is a customer of mine, or someone that likes me will comment. I'm like, now I know what you're thinking. I know exactly what to say next. I know where your mind is going, and you get a cultural phenomenons. By the way, as an aside, people don't study video games and movies as much the way they should. I mean, Game of Thrones was a smash hit of a show for the first 6 seasons. Kind of slid off 7 and 8, but that's okay. But it was a smash hit, and you can just really study how they built out, like how they built such intricate, long form stories for the most minute character and then just bring it to a beautiful end and you just loved it. Like even like I don't know if you've seen Game of Thrones. I'm assuming you have.
Yeah, so I started the first two episodes many years ago and gave up. I wasn't interested. I think I tried
Yeah.
again and same thing, like I watched the first two episodes, wasn't interested. And then just recently this year finished all 8 seasons and absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Because it's a slow burn. But like
Yeah.
so you'll get this reference. It's like the Onion Knight's son. You find like he dies. A, a spoiler to anyone that has go watch it. It doesn't really it's not a huge spoiler. It's
Mhm.
not a huge
We're
character.
past the spoiler in a
Yeah.
window where it's yeah.
Yeah. So like he
But the
basically
Onion Knight,
died.
remind me which character the Onion Knight.
He's the one with like the hands like this, but he doesn't have his knuckles. He was Stannis's bannerman for absolutely ages. He's yeah, he sounds like Ross a little bit. Um, but he was actually he doesn't sound like Ross at all. But anyway, he basically is a great character, but his son in the show dies within like 3 episodes of being introduced to him, but you get enough of a backstory that you kind of build a bit of a bond that you see how it affects him. You see how his whole relationship is relative, and it's really well done. So studying stuff like that will make you a better writer. And I can't remember who it was said it recently, but someone said all great copywriters are great screenwriters as well. So like study screenwriting, which is what I do as well. Like it's really, really cool to do so. Um One last piece of advice, don't get obsessed with the greed. Like find out what your enough number is first, then build up 6 months of enough and then start playing with it. And don't limit yourself. Like really don't limit yourself. One thing I will advise though is do not try and teach the skill of copywriting until you've actually been in it for some time. Because, and I mean this in kindness, you will run across people that have way greater length of knowledge, and basically it could burn you out as well because you're trying to compete with someone that's doing this for a lot longer. Rather, as an idea, find a niche that you're excited about and apply your copywriting skills to that, and you will actually dominate because most of your competition don't know how to write copy.
Yeah,
So, go where there's a big blue ocean, don't go to the red oceans.
that's great advice.
Yeah, so
So,
those are
how
some
to where
things.
can yeah, where can people find you? They want to get in touch.
Okay, if they want to get in touch, you can find me on Instagram at Adil Amarsi. It is my favorite place to actually be found because Facebook always fills up and I hate not being able to accept people's friends requests. My LinkedIn, I've got an update, which we've already discussed about. And again, my Instagram is my favorite place to be. I will be posting more clips on there, but it's really easy just to get in touch with me, so I'll respond. If you want to check out my website, graciouscopywriterlife.com, where you guys can pick up your free opt-in template. This is the greatest opt-in template that I've ever created. It's the one that's basically been responsible for a long, long line of successes, and I'm talking like 12 plus years of this. It's based on design, it's based on all the stuff. I break it all down. It's a 7 minute video. Go opt in. And if you want to buy any of my stuff, you can, because it's all on the same website, because it's actually going to help you grow your business. That being all said, speak to you guys real soon. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me, man. Any final
Awesome.
questions? Actually, I have a question for you before we go.
Yeah, yeah, let's do it.
What are your three favorite movies that you would recommend that I watch? There we go.
Oh, that I would recommend for you. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. See what you got.
Well, I was gonna say because I was gonna say it's funny we mentioned The Matrix because that's got to be in there for myself. But now
You
that I
should
have to
do
think of,
something.
yeah, now that I have to think of movies that maybe you haven't seen yet. Have you seen Victoria, the German one-take film?
I have not. That sounds amazing. On that, I was actually going to say you can also choose movies I've already seen before because I rewatch movies all the time. So,
Okay, Victoria was incredible.
okay,
Um,
Victoria's on the list.
I think it's a 3 hour, maybe 2.5 hour movie, all one take, no cheating. Like they didn't go into any dark rooms and then, black screen and
Really
come out. Yeah,
amazing.
it all takes place in late night Berlin. Very cool. Um, what else? I just watched um, The Covenant, Guy Ritchie's The Covenant.
Yep,
Very good
great
movie.
movie.
Yeah, that was
Mhm.
great. Okay. These are just the
Love
ones
that.
top of mind for me recently. I also had never seen, was shocked to that I had never seen it, but Training Day. Training Day was incredible. Denzel.
Really?
Yeah.
You haven't seen it? Okay. I'm
Yeah.
glad that you saw Training Day. It's a
Yeah.
great movie. I might
Amazing.
actually rewatch it again, to be fair, because like the direction in that was absolutely incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he is
It's just
incredible.
amazing. I think I've got something for movies that take place in a short amount of time. I love when there's a diverse, deep character arc, like like we touched on, that happens in a short space of time, because that can be life sometimes.
Yeah.
You wake up one day, you have no idea that you're going to be flipped upside down that day.
Oh yeah, entirely. I think the 90s were very prevalent for that kind of storytelling. Because I was thinking about this the other day. We don't have movies that are like around characters anymore. Like we do have biopics, but they're very dramatized and there's a very certain type of person like Oppenheimer or whatever it is. You don't have like a movie about a bard in the 13th century trying to make his way through life. You don't have that anymore. Or Mel Brooks, but Mel Brooks is a legend. By the way, if you've not seen Men in Tights, would always recommend.
I have not. I
Or
think I got to check it out.
oh oh my you not okay. Okay. You're in for a treat. If you've never seen Mel Brooks, Robin Hood, Men in Tights. It's a little bit of singing, a little bit of dancing, but it's a parody. It's hilarious.
Okay, cool. It's going on the list.
Really good movie to watch. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Thank you for actually recommending those, man. And thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for coming on, and hope that some people reach out to you because of this. And looking forward to our next conversation, which is going to be incredibly soon, isn't it? So
Oh, it
we'll talk
is. Oh, one last
soon.
thing before I go.
Yeah,
I will say this much. I forgot to mention this because you did ask me this and I forgot to completely mention it.
yeah,
One of the things I do is I do actually still mentor some people from time to time. I do consult for people on one-offs. I do still help with copy critiques, but the majority of my time is just developing like where I can do that when I want to. And it doesn't just like, hey, I'm doing this because I need it. It's more like I'm just doing it because I want to. I like helping people.
yeah. No, I love that. Is there a particular market or type of business that you lean towards more so often,
It's
be making an exception for that?
Oh God, I work in most businesses. The only ones I don't like are finance and crypto and the adult industry. Those are like the two big ones. I'd say that I
Okay.
kind of steer clear of. But everyone else is welcome. Most of the time I get hired for like product sales or personal brand sales, which is like my personal favorite too to actually work with because it's so much fun. Or dating.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
it's
love
fun.
personal brand as well. It's you have so much material to work with when you're writing from someone's life. Yeah,
You so do. It's the best.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Awesome.
Cool.
Thanks, Edel, and
Thanks, man.
look forward
I'll
to
see you
talking
in a
again
few.
soon. Yep.
Take care. Bye,
All right.
guys.
Bye.